Hey, it's Joe Solari with Author Nation, and we're still at NINC. And today we have a special edition for you because rather than the voice of Author Nation voicing at you, we're going to be interviewing him.
Yeah, it's kind of like an Inception thing.
Yeah. So, to kind of set the context, you have how many sessions you're doing here?
I have 3 presentations, and then I'm on a panel about AI and publishing.
Yeah. And the one this morning was
Artisan Age,
Yeah.
which they called a keynote, but there's like 4 other talks going on at the same time, so I'm a keynote of one room, I guess.
There you go.
So
25% keynote.
I'm still putting it on the resume though.
There you go.
Keynote at NINC 2024.
So how do you feel about that?
I'm kind of honored by it. I mean, it was, because last year I was still at Draft Digital when I came to this conference, and moved on, shortly after, and really wasn't sure if I'd even be welcome back at NINC. Who do they need me for? So Tadra and Mel reached out to me not long after, and said, "Look, we want you to do a talk." And then that became 2 talks, and then maybe 3 months ago they reached out and said, "Hey, can you do a 3rd talk?" I had pitched four sessions, knowing they would pick 2.
Right.
And but everyone on the little committee, and I don't know how the thing is structured, but everyone liked the idea of the 3rd one and wanted that one to exist, and so they reached out. I don't know if someone canceled. They had an opening. Seems like they could have easily filled it if they did, but they gave me an opportunity to do a 3rd one, and I bit. So then the AI panel thing came along. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure why I ended up on the AI panel. I do write about AI a lot, and I use AI for some things, but I wouldn't call myself an expert. But maybe they just needed a...
Maybe there was an open chair.
Yeah, they had an open slot and couldn't get the guy from Pseudo right for some reason.
Well, like you said, we're looking out the window and there's a dude on a parachute going by the hotel.
Oh, wait, that's my wife.
Oh my God.
She finally found the escape hatch.
Live, there we are at the parachute contest. So there's been some pretty significant changes. You've gone from working with Draft, and we had those guys on yesterday.
Still wonderful company, still wonderful guys.
They had some really cool stuff.
To quell all the rumors, there was no knife fight or falling out.
No, it's all a beautiful thing. I've witnessed it. But you kind of gone back to your roots. You and I have talked about this offline, but the idea of hey, what if I went back to what I wanted to do the whole time?
Right. Yeah. Because I think this is a topic that the audience will appreciate, but I mean, I burnt out. I mean, to the point of having existential crisis, dark moments. And, I love working with the author community. I don't think I'll ever give that up. I mean, it's just that's my community.
Yeah.
But the sort of demands on me there in my role at Draft Digital, the workload started to increase. The amount of time, and it was becoming more challenging to do the thing that got me into this business in the first place. And so I thought about this for a long while, and there were things that happened, nothing all that dramatic, but there were things that happened that made me think, maybe it is time to reconsider this. And I made the move to book sweeps, thinking that would be a kind of avenue for, keep myself in cereal and breakfast milk. And that went its way too. Nothing too dramatic there either. Just it's clear that wasn't going to work the way either Ryan or I thought it would. And so I stepped down from that, and just made a decision. I turned down a couple of different CEO roles, a couple of different offers. Maybe I'll come to regret that. But back to writing. It's the thing been my life, all along, really.
Yeah. Well, I think that, that, like, in talking with companies that are servicing authors, there's clear delineation in the companies that have people that have come out of the author field working for them, and how they think and how they operate, and kind of their ethos, versus companies that don't.
Yeah.
So it being natural for a company to be like, well, we want to have people that are indie authors that know the pain and the need, but then you're really putting yourself in an interesting spot, because if you're good at what you're doing and the business is succeeding, it's scaling, and you're going to have more responsibilities, and you're going to do more stuff, and the next thing you find out is like you're a full-time guy working at a company doing company stuff, and it's especially if now you've got reports, it's like you're filling out TPS reports. And
that's exactly it too, because I've come to realize, like, I'm a very good resource at the front end of a business's origin. Mm-hmm. Like I've worked with a lot of startups, in my career, both in publishing and outside of publishing. And, the stuff that I do, it's very cowboy sometimes, but it's a great fast-paced way to build a brand and get, build an audience. And so it's very handy, but there is a point where that stuff isn't what's needed anymore. And transitioning me into a, sit in a cubicle role is just never going to work for me. And it's really not going to work for them either. Like, it's not, and this is no fault of anybody's, Draft Digital's growing. That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
And the growth by acquisition thing, that's been amazing. And it changed the company culture a little, and that's acceptable. But, there's a point where it's like, okay, it's not that I'm no longer a fit. It's not that I'm no longer, happy with the company or they're happy with me. It's simply that there are better options for both of us at this point. Yeah, we can go and, be better apart than we can be together.
Well, and I think, not to belabor this point, but that's not just like an author company thing. Like, you look at, startup culture as a whole, there's so many situations where there's been, and where it's the worst is when it's the founder, right?
Yeah.
Foundational to, like, the inception of the idea that maybe disrupted a whole industry, but then it becomes that point in the industry where that person is actually detrimental to the company, because now they need to be thinking about, like, oh no, we have to do this thing or that, and I've seen it certainly in the case with companies that go from that startup phase into where, like, maybe they have a transaction where their startup equity leaves and a company comes in that's more about, establishing the business. Like, we're here to get you to that next level. And that means building out a professional sales force or getting your manufacturing operated, whatever that is. And it's like, oh, well, we don't need pioneers anymore.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Now we need people who can help build canoes and,
Yeah. We need the guy who can, like, lay the road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's a pretty natural thing. And I've got some friends that are, professional CEOs that go around and do that stuff. They come in and handle those kind of things, and they're really well suited for it. And part of it is their lack of passion for what the business does. Yeah. Right? Like, it's just like, I'm just here to make this thing.
And for me, it's almost a shame that there's not a role like that I could fill in this industry. But it's kind of almost the opposite, because I'm tied in with the author community. I'm one of them, but I'm also I call myself an F-list celebrity. Like, I'm known. I'm known in this narrow segment of reality. I'm known, and so I understand the market that all these companies are aiming for. So
the one I heard a guy say is he's 5 miles famous.
Yeah, that fits. Yeah, I mean,
like, here in this town, I'm a super big deal.
Exactly. Yeah, you go to one of these conferences and say my name. Yeah, it'll get you in the door. Yeah, try it.
So, I don't know about that. That's why it's F list.
Then tag me on social media when that does not work.
Yeah. And after your shadow ban, you'll. So now you're back writing. Tell us about two things. One is like the process of kind of getting back into that, and along with that, to your topic of the artisan author and how that's certainly something that has manifested as an idea over the past few months that we've been talking.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I've had to effectively reinvent the way I did this business, and that's part of that's come out of this whole artisan idea. But the reality of it was that what I was doing was what led to the burnout. So it's kind of hard to return to a sort of rapid release model. And, and I still write very quickly. I still write every day. Mm-hmm. But, I had a realization that I'm also at a sort of peak on what I can do if I continue working the way I've always worked. And so I've taken on the challenge of sort of re-educating myself. So I'm doing a book with J.D. Barker. We got a contract. He has like a distribution deal with Simon and Schuster.
Yeah, he's going to be talking about it at Author Nation.
Right, and I can't wait to hear his talk to find out what I've gotten involved
what you signed on to.
But
it sounds really cool.
It is going to be cool, and he's got a great model because he's aping it from James Patterson. Yeah. But he and I are doing this. Well, it requires me to do this in a whole new way. Like I had to do an outline. I had an absolute existential crisis doing an outline. I am the guy known to be a pantser, and so, but it's changed a lot about my approach. I have successfully done the outline. Mm-hmm. He actually told me in the email response that he says it's very rare that I ever get an outline that I have no notes for the outline. So he loves the story. So now we're marching forward. Well, that's part of a big, it's education for me, and it's a shift in thinking. And I'm going to start trying to leverage what I'm learning here in future books, but it changes the game.
Yeah.
And that's part of this artisan idea, because the whole artisan age concept, it's not new per se, but I'm just seeing this encroaching on what the industry is now, which is, for the longest time, we've been very focused on quantity over quality. Not per se. I mean, everyone says quality matters, but it's always been about how many books can I chunk out this year.
Yeah, I think the way to kind of put that into context is that is the call sign that we've given the idea around using release as a mechanism to elicit responses we want from marketing algorithms. Yeah,
I said this in my talk that you didn't come to, that I see rapid release as a marketing strategy. Yeah. And it has been an effective marketing strategy for a lot of incoming authors. Mm-hmm. Now I think it's still effective if you're an established author. If you're able to, because if you've got an audience, you got an audience, right? But, coming in new, fresh now, it's actually a detriment to you more than anything, because AI has just changed that landscape. When I left Draft to Digital, we were already seeing like single users uploading 1,000 books in a day. And, now it became a quality control issue, because the retailers aren't turning those away. They are asking people to self-identify, which I think is a hint at what's coming. I think what we're going to see, especially, I think it's going to start with Amazon, but I think what we'll see is a whole new category where people who are okay with, AI-written books, they can find them right here on this channel. And then, now there's a separate market, though, for human-written books, which we've never had to contend with that before. I don't see that as competitive. I see that as a sort of home field advantage scenario.
Yeah, well, and it'd be interesting to see. I haven't done any of the research, but has any of those books ever, held substantial rank without massive advertising?
That's a good question,
right? Because that's because the beauty of the marketplace as it is today for ebooks, it is really efficient
Yeah.
at sorting out.
Yeah.
And it's not anything else other than, customer behaviors being tracked, and, do some people get favorable treatment on the Amazon platform? Absolutely, because they're weighted because of the success that they've had.
Yeah.
Over and over. And to your point, what I have observed and I do know is with rapid release, in where authors are releasing in a series that has been successful, there is irrefutable evidence that if you stop releasing on a regular schedule, whatever that is, you will see your sales drop off,
Yeah.
and it won't be something you can recover. And I've seen it. Jeff Chaney has talked to a lot of his co-writers about
Yeah.
like, it's so important you keep this schedule, because if you stop,
Yeah.
we can't turn this thing back on.
Yeah, and I think I may have inadvertently seen the impact of that and I couldn't help it. I mean, it was a John Henry scenario for me. Like I was, my heart was ready to explode,
Yeah.
But I think on the other hand, because I also at the same time was pivoting to doing a lot of stuff on Substack, I was bringing in a whole new audience. And, because every day I get a handful of new subscribers to that, and they go straight onto that mailing list. And so when I have a new book, they get an email. And what I'm seeing is interesting. It's like I've definitely seen some fall off, but I'm also seeing some steady, not growth, but I've seen some stabilization with the existing books. And then it's really interesting. It's like anything I do that is new, like I did that sort of parody commercial about pumpkin spice novels. Like for like 3 days after that, the book that I feature in that saw growth. And it's sort of like every time that thing accidentally comes back around in someone's feed on Facebook or something, I get a little spike in sales. So that's telling me a story. I don't quite have enough to figure out what it is yet, but I think it's all part of that same thing. Like that's the marketing now, is giving them an experience that they can
For
climb
sure.
onto.
Yeah, I think, when you get back to the idea of the artisan author, there's some things that I think we could probably, dive deeper on. One is when you start to think about crafting that experience.
Right.
Like the books are craft in themselves, and there's things you have to do to craft those books, but how is that a component of that customer experience that you're crafting? And it does start with the ads, right? That may be the first and only thing they ever see of you,
That's true.
right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you this for free. Like about a week ago, I shut off every single Amazon ad because I'm just not seeing anything there anymore. And I could continue to experiment again and, find what works again and put it back on, set it and forget it. And there's a group here this week that they help you optimize Amazon ads. Maybe I'll try that. But Facebook is once again kind of proving to be a nice fertile ground for finding new readers. And it's interesting how I'm getting them. Sometimes it really helps to piss them off. Like I'll just,
Well, on that platform especially.
especially man, like they'll go hate buy stuff, and that's an interesting phenomenon.
Well, I know this for a fact. A particular client was running ads on a book, and it was focused on a particular gender, particular age,
Yeah.
and there was massive amounts of comments and traffic on that ad of people that didn't like it.
Yeah.
And the natural thing to do would be to go to take those comments off.
Yeah.
And it just happened on accident that they stopped that behavior, and the best performing ad, of course, ended up being the one where people were just fighting
Yeah.
about the topic on it.
Right.
And then you recognize that the people that are unhappy with the idea of a book about this are never going to buy it.
Right.
But there's going to be like you said, there's going to be people that are going to buy it despite those people.
Right.
Or you're just going to get better visibility because that's what that platform wants.
And that's what's happening. So I wrote something about algorithms the other day, and saying that people need to really stop worrying about AI is going to steal our jobs and steal our audience and all that, and worry a lot more about how algorithms have been, curating us for the past few years. And the algorithm isn't necessarily paying any attention to the content of that hateful comment, but it sees that someone commented.
Yeah.
And it sees that maybe they hit dislike or angry face, but they hit an emoji. And then that stuff appears on their feed.
Yeah.
Like when I like something or when I comment on something, it appears on my feed. So the people following me get exposed to it.
Well, I remember hearing a guy at a conference, it was not an author conference, talking about just that subject, that part of the problems with interests on Facebook is maybe they really hate that thing.
Yeah.
They hate Ford cars, but
Yeah.
guess what happens then? They get a lot more stuff about Fords, positive
Right.
and negative.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like a real world version of law of attraction.
Yeah.
Like the more you kind of diss on something, the more you see it. Like I see this on because I'm one of the people who's still on Twitter. I still won't call it X, but was that? Yeah.
How you two doing over
We're
there?
doing all right. Me and Elon shared a beer the other day. But I see it all the time where people are complaining that, all I ever see is racism and hatred. And people point out, like, you see the stuff that you click on and share.
Yeah.
Like, this is you sharing this. Yeah. And so the algorithm says, okay, you like that. Here's more of that.
We got more of it.
I see a whole lot of dogs. I see a lot of my stuff from the authors I am friends with. That's the stuff I see. So yeah, you get more of what you engage with. It's not even what you like, or dislike.
Yeah, it's just what you're clicking on and stopping and looking at.
Yeah,
and all that. It's just mathematics.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were talking about the author artisan deal, and one of the things that I've been thinking about, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on, is, you mentioned you're working with JD, and he's helping you kind of think more about a process on your craft, or like, hey, here's my recipe that you should really follow. Completely understand that. I'd be interested in your ideas around this idea of, like, you have an audience that found you when they found you and they liked you, but over time, naturally, not necessarily their tastes are going to change, but they're going to they're going to get more sophisticated.
Yes.
There's going to be some change in their taste, right?
Yeah.
How do you think folks that are kind of contemplating the same stuff that you're contemplating can, address that and think about that in a real deliberate way about how do I continue to understand what that reader experience should be, and how can I track and keep up with their changes in sophistication?
That's a challenging question.
That's why I'm here.
I mean, one of the things I've been talking about a lot lately, and in this Artisan Age talk today, was there's the idea of it's not just about engagement. Like, what we've done is we've transitioned into an age where perspective and experience are commodities now. We were in the information age, and then there was the attention era, and that's when those things were the commodity. And now it's what readers are looking for, especially in times like now when there's so many walls up and so much division and so much, with the election is one part of this, but it's not the only thing that's driving people apart right now. What readers are looking for is the same thing humans have been looking for since time started, and it's a connection, and that you do that through sharing your experiences. And as the reader is becoming more sophisticated, not just the writer, but the writer's brand needs to incorporate these experiences to become more sophisticated as well. Like, you're improving your offering. So I owe it to my readers to go out and experience as many new things as possible. That's the way I see it, And to the point, like, just a minor example, but like Kara and I we got to St. Petersburg early, and went out. And the first night we were out, we decided we found a place that served tapas. And I have no idea what a tapa is. But I said, okay, I've heard of this. People keep talking about this. Let's go try it. And it turned out it was really expensive hors d'oeuvres. But but it was one of those things where, a couple of years ago, we would have never even gone in there because I don't know what that is. How do I know I'm going to like it?
Yeah.
But that's such a minor example, but it's so dead on. Like, the readers read for that escape, but they also read to get that experience and get exposed to that perspective. And now more than ever, because all they get day in and day out from, let's just say mainstream media. I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist, but you'd be hard pressed to argue that the mainstream media doesn't have some form of agenda that they push with every story. Well, and algorithms are pushing stuff our way, and all this stuff keeps coming at us. So we get a lot of mirroring, that whole thing. Like you get back what you're engaging with, right? We get a lot of that. Well, we are creatures of novelty. We have to have novelty to survive. I mean, that's why we expanded across the globe.
Where the rat explores the maze.
Right. So if we're going to find the cheese, we got to get moving. What we're seeing now is like we're in loops. We just there's no cheese. There's just the maze.
Yeah. So
what we're doing as creators, and I've opened up to talk to not just authors, but all creators, YouTubers, and whatever your medium is. We are providing the cheese now. And that is that perspective. It's not just our experience. It's how are we processing that experience? And, I write novels. I write a lot of nonfiction too, but I write novels, and the way I'm conveying that perspective is through the character interactions and the settings and things like that. The more I can discover out here IRL, the more I can convey to these people on the page. Big bulk of my readers are, unfortunately, in some respects, are, elderly, retired. They're not going anywhere. Some of them are on fixed incomes, things like that. This is the only window to the world that they can rely on. And, because they're not enjoying TV for sure.
Yeah.
So, that's what we're providing now. I don't know if that grenade hit anywhere near an answer to your question, but that's what I'm offering.
Yeah, no, I think, a lot of times when people are talking to me at a show like this where they're coming to me to ask about what I think about how to do something. And I think one of the things that I think concerned is probably the word about is helping to get away from this idea of imitation and go to innovation. And so it's like, don't think about, what are the tasks that I need to do. Think about where you want to be in 18 months. Think about where you want to be in 24 months. And then what are the things that you can do in the present that get you closer to that?
Yeah.
Right? And you might need to think through some things. But, bringing it back to the show and the ideas, there's a lot of things that we're not talking about. We're just going to show you at the show. It's like there's no reason. I may be talking about other things that we've released that are now real that you can see and you can experience. But the idea is that all that stuff is starting to manifest because of work the team has been doing for the last 12 months, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't an overnight success.
Yeah.
Right? Like this stuff has taken time. So where do you want? What's it look like when people are like, "Oh, wow, Kevin, this is what? How did this happen? You just popped up overnight."
Yeah.
Then you can build back and be like, okay, this looks like these kind of releases, this kind of interaction.
Well, that's the writer's mantra, right? Show, don't tell.
Yeah.
And you're putting in all that work on the front end. And I actually had a conversation with the guy from Pseudo-Write, and he said something. I wish I could remember his name. I'm sorry, guy.
Is it Mike?
I think it's Mike.
Yeah.
He said something I'll fully credit him on. He says, in the software development world, there's this idea of like you can be a front end developer or a back end developer, but then there's some who are a full stack developer. He says with the author community, they're all full stack. I mean, you're the one writing the book, but you're also the one marketing the book, and you're the one who's overseeing. I do my own covers, and I have an editing team, but like if I didn't have that, I'd have to make sure that was done.
Yeah.
What other career are you really, other than a straight up, bootstrapping entrepreneur, there aren't that many careers out there where you're the one who has to do everything.
Well, I think that it's any startup company, and most of them are bootstrap. You have to do everything. It's just in most businesses, you're not also the one that manifests the product out of nothing, right? Like you're I'm an insurance salesman. Right?
Yeah.
Like so
But I didn't underwrite the policy.
Yeah. I got a guy to sign the policy. I need to get the quote in. I got to do, but like somebody else is the underwriter.
Yeah.
Same with I mean, plumbing, you have to do the labor, but like you don't have to go make the pipe. Right. So the point is that you're absolutely right. This is one thing where you do have to manifest the actual product, and there's in a perfect world, I could think of the story and it would magically go to everybody's head.
Yeah.
That was willing to pay me and at the price they wanted. That would be the perfect magic market. Until then, we have to use these processes of getting those words onto paper and then into print and then into audio and whatever the next medium's going to be. But where do you here you are, sunny Florida, got some books to write.
Yeah.
Where does it look like for you, like over the next 18 months? What is like your path in this?
Well, poverty. I'm doing the book with JD, and then I've got like 3 other books that are I paused while we do this, because I also consider this an education, like I said. So I'm giving this my full attention. I've been talking to a couple of entities about a role very similar. It's really interesting. They both approached me separately with a practically the same role, but they're both kind of on a little pause at the moment. But if that comes through, that's something that I think is going to be big for the author community. So I am kind of interested in it. But for mostly what I'm trying to do is get back to the sort of the heights I was at prior to say 2020, and where our living is basically my books. I really enjoy just writing and publishing. It's really what I want to do. But like everybody else, you got to, sometimes there's compromises to be made along the way.
Yeah. Well, I think the other part of how I see this idea kind of shifting is people having the income component be more of a symptom than the absolute objective. It's like, if you deliver this to an audience on a regular basis, then you do see that income.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that sounds nice when like books need to get written and bills to be paid. It's a little harder.
I will say though, I'm very excited about like what I'm currently doing, and I see it as it's a doorway, and I'm excited about it almost as much because I'm changing some of my approach, because I've been doing this a long time. Writing a book isn't a big deal for me. It's it's a little bit like you've had a certain golf swing, your whole career, and now you're working with a. I almost hate to say this because I don't want JD to get a big head, but like you're working with a golf pro. Yeah. He doesn't even play golf. The schmuck. I'm working with somebody who has seen a different part of the industry than I've seen, who's accomplished things in a different way. Yeah. And, it's hard to, whether you like James Patterson or not, I mean, and I'm not the biggest fan of all his books. I've liked some, but whether you like that guy or not, it's very hard to argue that he's not phenomenally successful as a writer. Yeah. So worth learning.
Yeah, I think, so I can look at clients that I've worked with in the past, and I talk about, like, you have this recipe. Like, do you understand your own recipe?
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's a really important process to go through, is really defining that, so you can be like, yes, this is the stuff that I need to do.
Yeah.
And not get distracted from that, because a lot of I one client in particular, he would see other people doing things and be like, what about this? It's like, yeah, and that's why they're having average results, and you're having above average.
Well, that's
results,
right. And that's probably the best possible point to make, is like, you're always going to keep getting the same results when you keep doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do, is if I want next level, which I do, and that's part of this. I think that's part of the burnout I had too, was that if you want me to write a book, I will knock out a book for you in the next 2 weeks. No problem. No problem at all. But I kind of got to this point where it's like, that's no longer enough for me. It's just hitting keys, you know?
Yeah.
I always joke that, I cheat when I write a book. It's all the same words, I just put them in a different order. And that's kind of what it has been. And this is me sort of throwing a skip in my own record, because, it's putting my ego aside. And believe me, not easy for Kevin Tumlinson to do. I know I seem humble, but but it is putting that aside, and it is sort of allowing myself to be uncomfortable, which is a very important thing for authors to embrace, especially now, because if those who are worried about AI, there are some legitimate concerns about that when it comes to our industry. But if you are willing to be uncomfortable, you can learn how to leverage that rather than it being a detriment to your life. And for those who are unwilling to do that, it's the asteroid, man. I mean,
Yeah. Well, as an observer of the industry, I would be, my belief is that most of the careers that I've seen take downturns, don't take it the wrong way, it's been self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Right? Now,
I'm going to include myself in that.
I think that's courageous to do.
Yeah.
I mean, but as somebody that's like watching, I've known a lot of people that I would have said, this guy's going to ascend to a certain point or do this, and I feel I'm a pretty good predictor of outcomes, and then like, but I didn't see that they were going to do X or Y, and that then led to things. Assuming you're never going to have that self-inflicted situation is a little bit arrogant, but is more important that it's just not being prepared. Like, if you're going to do this the rest of your life, you better assume it's going to have ups and downs. Right. Whether they're self-inflicted or the sheer fact of, like, our economy has recessions, there are changes in taste. Like there's an upward trend. Right. Like, if you didn't learn anything from COVID, learn this, right?
Right, exactly.
Like, there is a rebound, right? Like, yes, it was amazing, and then it wasn't. Right. Now, you can go back and look at charts, and every e-commerce function there was, and it's now kind of back on that trajectory of whatever percentage growth it was. It's self-corrected. But as humans, we think, it's just up and to the right from this point. No,
because you really want it to be. Authors also need to stop. They need to remove the phrase unfair from their vocabularies, because that sort of comparative mindset that happens. Like, it's unfair that John Grisham never had to do what I'm doing and reinvent his career from practically the bottom up. It's unfair that Stephen King can just write something on a Post-it and sell it for $100 million. Who cares that that's the way their career works? We have to get busy. If reinventing is what it's going to take, then we need to get busy reinventing instead of being mad about it.
I mean, I've said this a couple times to people. It's this whole idea of, like, if I could wave a magic wand and the market stay just as it is right now for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
would you be satisfied?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have they pause, right? Like, because that means nothing changes. There's no new opportunities. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
The reality is, and I was talking to Jay Falconer about this, and he's a little bit older than me, but something like, you can look at AI as the end of the world,
Yeah.
or you can look at it as this is the beginning of an age, just like when the internet started.
Yeah.
Right? If you think back about what you know now today about what happened in with the internet revolution and how everything developed, if you can apply that experience to what's happening in AI now,
Yeah.
right? Like what's gonna in the future, people are gonna be like, oh, well, you got into that early and you had all this advantage because you were a first mover.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you know how hard it was back then?
Right.
It was like loading a book on CreateSpace.
Yeah.
I was there. I was doing that, right?
Yeah. I remember trying to do layout in Microsoft Word.
Right?
You know? Yeah.
How many hours lost of your life doing
Right.
that, right? But that got you in a yes, that was part of the first mover advantage, is that you had to carve out the canoe, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's part of the deal. It's not going to be. Now, did that at some points give you advantage because you got into underserved markets early and there was the ability to use marketing strategies that don't work now? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, sure, I if I could go back, there's things I would definitely have done had I known they existed
Yeah.
at that time. But yeah, and that's the thing. You there is a sort of like early. There is an early adopter advantage sometimes, but no one ever talks about the downside of being an early adopter. You know, there are a lot of things that look at micro discs. Remember that?
Yeah.
Anybody got one of those right now? Things like that. There is a downside to that, or a risk, I should say, and you got to be prepared for that.
Oh, I mean, there's going to be more value created from this AI thing than ever before.
Yeah.
There's also going to be a proportional, equally huge amount of money sent to heaven that will never come back.
Yeah.
Right. And I was saying this to somebody today about the idea of like, let's look at companies that in the beginning of the internet were the obvious bet.
Yeah.
Are they around today?
Right.
Not a lot of them.
Not a lot. I don't think. I think AOL is no longer around, right?
Like they're a shell of it.
Yeah.
I know there's a few people that still have their AOL.com.
Yeah.
They're on the list.
I still use my Netscape browser. So yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. By the way, I feel like I keep catching the view of us side by side. I feel like we should be announcing sports or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that Snoop Dogg with the horses.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Well, let's get this kind of wrapped up here. What's in the future for you? You said you got this thing with JD.
Yeah.
Like, we wave the wand. It's how you want it. The money that you need is there. What does a day in your life look like?
Oh man. So assuming the money lands there, I mean, this is what I do. I mean, I write. I'll still go to conferences. I can't get rid of the bug of wanting to do things that help the author community for some reason. Mm-hmm. Even when I get sick and tired of it, I can't seem to shake it. It's the monkey on my back. But yeah, I mean, in my business, in my world, my business would be, I'm writing and publishing. I'm doing podcasts and creating content like that. Mm-hmm. And just in providing, I want to also provide a venue for incoming writers. Like I'm seeing ways in which if things go the way I think they're going to go, I think there's a shift in the way publishing will function. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the term hybrid has been co-opted by a scammer set. But I am seeing the traditional and indie worlds merging, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I feel like I will be somewhere at the center of that. So a lot of what I have in mind for my future is very vague, but all things, equal and the money in my bank, I'm writing books, man. That's what I was born for, and that's what I'll continue doing until I die. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
So where can they find you?
Author Nation, no. Well, if you go to kevintumlinson.com, I think the only I need to put the Author Nation podcast on that site. I don't think I've done that yet, but I need to. But you can find me on that's where you can find my Wordslinger podcast and the Writers Inc. podcast, which if you're not listening to those, you should.
Yeah.
And
the
books.
The Writers Inc. That's
Writers Inc. is the show that I do with J.D. Barker, Jenna Brown, and Christine Daigle. Mm-hmm. And we interview some of the biggest names in publishing. I recently interviewed Daniel Silva as a big, one of my favorite thriller writers. That was an honor. So yeah, so great show, Wordslinger podcast. I still do interviews on Wordslinger podcast, but because I'm talking to authors on that other show, I'm trying to kind of shift the format a little and do something a little different with that show. And people seem to be liking what I'm doing, even though I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, they can come and watch you at the show.
Yes, we're going to be broadcasting Writers Inc. live at Author Nation. So definitely come check that out. And what we're gonna try to do is kind of, I don't know if we're gonna be able to take questions or not. We haven't figured it out. We were thinking we might bring on a guest to interview live. Okay. But we haven't worked out whether we're doing that or not. So
you guys think through that. If you need us to go out to the community and give them the questions.
Well, that's a good. Yeah, I'll reach out, but not to you. Apparently, I have to reach out to someone else in your organization. Yeah, you got people for that stuff. Joe's gotten too big for me now.
Yeah. Well, it's not that guy too big for you. It's that I've found people that are better at a lot of things than me.
That's a key, right? When I get to a point where I can have someone again, at different points I've had VAs and stuff. Right now, I don't feel justified in it, but that's important to know what you can't do and what you need to outsource.
Well, yeah, I think with anything, there's, as an entrepreneur, there's some things that you have to do yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's because of where you are economically, or just because it might be too complex to lay out for somebody, or it's never been done before, and but most of the stuff, there's probably somebody on the planet that is way better at doing it than you.
Yeah.
And having them and paying for their time, or figuring out how you do something with them, makes for a way better result.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could have programmed the site we built.
Yeah.
It would be out in 2032 and it wouldn't work.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think that's always a good lesson for entrepreneurs. It's I know you can.
You can, but should you? Yeah. And I got a real problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, sometimes it's hard because you're the urgency of you wanting the solution. You're not willing. It's not that you're not willing, but it's like you can't see that you have the time or the space to go find that person because they're not in your immediate sphere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, anyhow, so go to kevintumlinson.com.
Yeah.
And have your life changed.
Say hello. Yeah. I will change your life. Yeah. I've got some author services I've rolled out. I didn't talk about it, but if you pop by,
he will.
I'll help you make money is the point. So come to me if you want to make money.
Yeah. Do you like money?
Do you like money? Could you use more money? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not timeshare.
Not yet.
Yeah,
give me some
MLM.
Give me a minute. Yeah. And I'm not a VA either.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, it's good having you.
Yeah.
And we'll get back out into rubbing elbows with the big deal authors at me.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right.
Bye.